In the quiet town of Pine Ridge, nestled deep within the dense forests of Oregon, Emma Carter lived a simple life. She spent her days working at the local library and her evenings exploring the woods that surrounded her small cabin. The forest was her sanctuary, a place where she could escape the noise of the world and find peace among the trees. On one such evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, Emma decided to take a longer walk than usual. Her boots crunched against the fallen leaves and the cool breeze carried the earthy scent of pine. As she wandered deeper into the woods, something unusual caught her eye. At first, it looked like a bundle of glowing moss near the base of an ancient oak tree. But as she approached, her breath hitched in her throat. It wasn't moss, it was alive. A small creature lay curled up on the ground, its translucent skin shimmering faintly in the fading light. Its body was delicate, almost fragile, with long limbs that seemed too thin to support it. Large, almond-shaped eyes blinked slowly, meeting, hers with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Emma froze, unsure of what to do. The creature whimpered softly, and she noticed a gash along its side, oozing a silvery substance. Her heart ached at the sight. Whatever this being was, it was hurt and alone. Without thinking, she knelt beside it and gently extended her hand. The creature flinched but didn't pull away. Slowly, it reached out a tiny, trembling limb and touched her finger. The contact sent a strange warmth through her, as though the creature was trying to communicate without words. "I won't hurt you," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. She slipped off her jacket and carefully wrapped it around the creature. It felt light, almost weightless, in her arms. Cradling it close to her chest, she stood and began walking back toward her cabin. Every step felt surreal, as if she were living in a dream. She had no idea what this creature was or where it had come from, but she couldn't leave it behind. Back at her cabin, Emma placed the creature on her kitchen table and examined its wound more closely. The silvery fluid continued to seep out, but the edges of the gash appeared to be closing ever so slightly. Was it healing itself? She grabbed a clean cloth and dabbed at the injury, cleaning away the excess fluid. The creature winced but didn't resist. Its large eyes never left her face, watching her every move with an intensity that made her feel both nervous and strangely connected. "What are you?" Emma murmured, half to herself. "And how did you end up here?" The creature tilted its head, as though pondering her question. Then, to her astonishment, it mimicked the sound of her voice, repeating the last word. "Here." The word came out soft and distorted, like wind chimes tinkling in the breeze. Emma gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. She realized then that this being was intelligent, perhaps even sentient. Over the next few hours, Emma tried to figure out how to care for it. She rummaged through her pantry, searching for something it might eat. Finding nothing suitable, she remembered the bottle of warm milk she kept for emergencies. It was meant for stray animals, but desperate times called for desperate measures. She poured some into a baby bottle and held it up to the creature's lips. To her relief, it latched on immediately, drinking greedily. Watching it feed, Emma felt a wave of protectiveness wash over her. She decided to call it Loom, inspired by the gentle glow emanating from its skin. Days passed, and Loom grew stronger under Emma's care. Its wounds healed completely, and it began to explore the cabin, crawling onto furniture and inspecting everything with wide-eyed fascination. It seemed particularly fond of reflecting surfaces, staring intently at its own image in mirrors and windows. Emma couldn't help but smile at its antics. Despite the strangeness of the situation, having Loom around filled a void she hadn't realized existed. One night, as Emma sat reading by the fireplace, she heard a low hum outside. At first she thought it was just the wind, but the sound grew louder, vibrating through the walls of the cabin. She glanced out the window and saw bright lights descending from the sky. Her heart raced as a massive ship hovered silently above the trees, casting an eerie glow over the forest. The door to her cabin creaked open, and 3 towering figures stepped inside. They were humanoid, but unlike anything Emma had ever seen. Their bodies were sleek and angular, covered in a shimmering exoskeleton that reflected the firelight. The leader of the group stepped forward, his movements deliberate and graceful. He spoke in a deep, resonant voice, his words halting but understandable. "You saved our child." Emma clutched the book in her hands tightly, her mind racing. She glanced down at Loom, who had crawled onto her lap and was staring up at the newcomers with what looked like recognition. The leader gestured toward the creature, and Emma hesitated before nodding. "Yes," she said finally. "I found it hurt in the woods. I took care of it." The alien bowed his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "We are grateful. You nourished our child, human. Now we owe you a life debt." Before Emma could respond, the other two aliens scooped Loom into their arms and turned to leave. Panic surged through her and she rose to her feet. "Wait," she called out. "What does that mean? A life debt?" But they were already gone, disappearing into the night as quickly as they had arrived. The ship ascended into the sky, leaving Emma standing alone in her cabin, clutching the empty baby bottle and wondering what exactly had just happened. Weeks turned into months, and life in Pine Ridge returned to its usual rhythm. Emma Carter tried to focus on her daily routines, organizing books at the library, tending to her garden, and taking long walks through the forest. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't shake the memory of Loom or the towering figures who had taken it away. The phrase "a life debt" echoed in her mind, haunting her thoughts. What did it mean? Would they ever return? And why did she feel such an emptiness now that Loom was gone? On quiet nights, Emma often sat on her porch, staring up at the stars. She wondered if Loom was out there somewhere, safe and happy. She hoped so. Taking care of the small creature had been one of the most meaningful experiences of her life. It had reminded her of the importance of kindness, even when faced with the unknown. Still, she couldn't help but feel uneasy about the alien's promise. A life debt sounded significant, but what would it entail? Would they truly repay her? Or was it just a polite gesture? One evening, as Emma sipped tea on her porch, a sudden gust of wind swept through the trees. Leaves swirled around her feet, and the air grew heavy with an electric charge. Before she could react, two figures emerged from the shadows. They were unmistakably Vairani, the same species as Loom. One was tall and commanding, his exoskeleton gleaming faintly in the moonlight. This was Kale, the leader who had spoken to her before. Beside him stood another alien, shorter and more slender, with delicate features. Her name, as Kale introduced her, was Rin. Emma's heart pounded as she rose to her feet. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Kale stepped forward, his movements slow and deliberate. "We have come to honor our debt," he said, his deep voice calm and measured. "You saved our child. Now we must repay you." Emma frowned, unsure how to respond. Repay her? How? She glanced at Rin, who watched her with curious eyes, then back at Kale. "I don't understand," she admitted. "What kind of repayment are we talking about?" Kyle tilted his head as though considering her question. "Among our people, a life debt is sacred. It means we owe you a favor of great value, a gift that matches the worth of the life you saved." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We offer you two choices. You may accept material wealth beyond your imagination, or you may ask for a single act that will save a human life." Emma blinked, startled by the enormity of the offer. Wealth beyond imagination? That sounded tempting, but it wasn't what she truly wanted. As she thought about it, memories of her brother Daniel flooded her mind. Daniel had disappeared years ago during a hiking trip in the mountains. His body was never found, and the authorities eventually gave up the search. Emma had spent countless sleepless nights wondering if he was still alive, lost somewhere in the wilderness, or worse. Her throat tightened as she looked at Kale. "Could you find my brother?" she asked hesitantly. "If he's still out there, could you bring him back to me?" Kyle's expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, perhaps surprise or maybe respect. "We will search for him," he said after a moment. "But know this, The task may not be simple. Earth is vast and time has passed. If he lives, we will find him. If he does not..." He trailed off, leaving the sentence unfinished. Emma nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She hadn't allowed herself to hope for Daniel's return in years, but now, standing face to face with beings capable of traversing the stars, she dared to believe. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to express my gratitude." Rin stepped forward, then holding out a small device. It was smooth and metallic, with a faint blue glow emanating from its surface. "This is a communication link," she explained, her voice softer than Kale's but equally clear. "Use it if you need us again. We will hear your call." Emma took the device, her fingers brushing against its cool surface. She stared at it for a long moment, feeling both awe and disbelief. These aliens, so different from humans, were offering her something extraordinary. She looked up at them, meeting their glowing eyes. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "This is incredible." Kale inclined his head slightly. "It is our way," he said simply. "When a debt is owed, it must be repaid. Rest assured, we will do everything in our power to find your brother." With that, the two aliens turned and walked back into the forest. Their forms shimmered briefly, blending with the darkness, until they vanished completely. Emma stood on her porch for a long time afterward, clutching the communication link in her hand. The weight of what had just happened settled over her like a blanket. She felt a mixture of hope and anxiety, excitement and fear. What if they couldn't find Daniel? What if they did, but he wasn't the same person she remembered? And what exactly would they encounter during their search? Days passed, and Emma tried to distract herself with work and chores. But every time she glanced at the communication link sitting on her kitchen table, her thoughts drifted back to Daniel. She imagined him wandering through the mountains, cold and alone, calling out for help. Or perhaps he was injured, unable to move, relying on the mercy of nature to keep him alive. The possibilities were endless, and each one filled her with mixtures of dread and anticipation. One afternoon, as she sorted books at the library, a young boy approached her desk. He held a tattered copy of a science fiction novel, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Do you think aliens are real?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. Emma smiled softly, thinking of Kale and Rin. "Maybe," she replied. "And if they are, I hope they're as honorable as the ones in your book." The boy grinned and ran off, leaving Emma to her thoughts. She realized then how much her perspective had changed since meeting the Virani. Before, she had dismissed stories of extraterrestrial life as mere fantasy. Now she knew better. The universe was far bigger and far stranger than she had ever imagined. Weeks later, Emma received a message through the communication link. It was brief and to the point. "We have located traces of your brother near a mountain range. Be prepared to join us soon." Her heart raced as she read the words over and over again. They had found something that might lead them to Daniel. She packed a bag quickly, gathering warm clothes, food, and a flashlight. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready to face it. When Kale and Rin arrived at her cabin the next evening, Emma greeted them with determination in her eyes. "Take me to him," she said firmly. "I want to help." Kale studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Very well," he said. "But be warned. The path ahead is dangerous. Ancient technology lies buried beneath the mountains, creating disturbances that even we cannot fully predict." Emma swallowed hard but held her ground. "I understand," she said. "Let's go." As they led her to their ship, hidden among the trees, Emma felt a surge of courage. She didn't know what awaited her in the mountains, but she was willing to risk everything for the chance to see her brother again. For the first time in years, she felt truly alive. The Virani ship rose silently into the night sky, its sleek form cutting through the clouds with effortless grace. Emma Carter sat in the center of the craft, her hands gripping the edges of her seat as she watched the world shrink below her. The forest gave way to rolling hills, then to jagged peaks dusted with snow. She had never been on an aircraft before, let alone a spaceship, and the experience left her breathless. Kale and Rin stood nearby, their glowing forms casting faint shadows across the interior of the vessel. "Where exactly are we going?" Emma asked, breaking the silence. Her voice sounded small against the hum of the ship's engines. Kyle turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "To a place where time and space twist," he said. "The traces of your brother were detected near a mountain range, but the area is unstable. Ancient technology lies buried beneath the surface, creating interference that disrupts even our instruments." Emma frowned, trying to make sense of his words. "What kind of technology?" Rin stepped forward, her movements fluid and deliberate. "It is not of Earth," she explained. "Long ago others came here, explorers, builders, perhaps conquerors. They left behind remnants of their work, machines that still function in ways we cannot fully understand. These devices emit energy fields that distort reality itself." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. "And my brother is there, in the middle of all that?" Kyle nodded. "We believe so. But be warned, entering this area carries risks. The energy fields may affect us, and you, in unpredictable ways." Emma took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had come this far, there was no turning back now. "I don't care about the risks," she said firmly. "If there's a chance Daniel is alive, I have to find him." The ship descended into a narrow valley surrounded by towering mountains. The air grew colder and the landscape below was desolate, marked by sharp cliffs and jagged rocks. As they landed, Emma noticed strange patterns etched into the ground, swirling designs that seemed to pulse faintly with light. It was as if the land itself was alive. Kale led the way, with Rin close behind. Emma followed, clutching a flashlight, tightly in her hand. The atmosphere was heavy, almost oppressive, and every step felt like moving through water. Strange sounds echoed around them, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Emma's heart raced, but she forced herself to keep going. After hours of climbing and navigating treacherous terrain, they reached a cave hidden within the mountainside. Its entrance was partially obscured by fallen boulders, but Kale used a device to clear the debris. Inside, the air was thick with static electricity, raising the hairs on Emma's arms. The walls of the cave glowed faintly, covered in the same swirling patterns she had seen outside. "This is it," Kale said, his voice low. "The source of the interference." As they ventured deeper, the light grew brighter, illuminating a large chamber at the heart of the cave. In the center of the room lay Daniel, or at least someone who looked like him. He was unconscious, lying on a platform suspended above the ground. Surrounding him were pulsating orbs of energy, each emitting a soft hum that resonated through the chamber. Emma gasped, tears welling up in her eyes. "Daniel!" she cried, rushing toward him. But Kyle caught her arm, holding her back. "Wait," he warned. "The energy fields are unstable. Removing him could trigger a reaction." Emma froze, her gaze locked on her brother. He looked older, thinner, but unmistakably himself. His chest rose and fell slowly, indicating he was still alive. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling. Kale studied the scene carefully. "We must disable the energy fields first," he said. "But doing so will require precise timing. One mistake could cause the entire system to collapse." Emma's mind raced. She couldn't lose Daniel again. Not when he was so close. "Let me help," she insisted. "Tell me what to do." Rin handed her a small device similar to the communication link she had been given earlier. "Use this to monitor the energy levels," she instructed. "When Kale gives the signal, adjust the frequency to match the readings. It will weaken the fields enough for us to retrieve your brother." Emma nodded, gripping the device tightly. She watched as Kale moved closer to the platform, his movements cautious and deliberate. Rin stayed by Emma's side, guiding her through the process. The hum of the energy fields grew louder, vibrating through the chamber like a living thing. "Now," Kale said suddenly, his voice cutting through the noise. Emma adjusted the frequency on the device, her hands shaking. The orbs flickered, their glow dimming slightly. Kyle seized the moment, stepping onto the platform and lifting Daniel into his arms. The energy field surged, crackling violently as if protesting the intrusion. "Hurry!" Rin urged, pulling Emma back toward the entrance. They ran, their footsteps echoing through the cavern. Behind them, the orbs exploded in bursts of light, sending shockwaves rippling through the chamber. Rocks tumbled from the ceiling, narrowly missing them as they fled. Emma's lungs burned, but she pushed herself harder, driven by the thought of reaching safety with Daniel. Finally, they emerged into the cold night air, collapsing onto the rocky ground. Kale laid Daniel gently on the snow, checking his vitals. Emma knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Is he?" she began, unable to finish the question. "He lives," Kale confirmed. "But he is weak. We must leave this place, quickly." Emma nodded, relief washing over her. She glanced back at the cave, now filled with smoke and debris. Whatever ancient technology had kept Daniel alive, it had nearly cost them everything to retrieve him. As the group made their way back to the ship, Emma couldn't stop looking at her brother. He was pale and frail, but he was alive. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to hope, not just for Daniel's recovery, but for the future. The Vayrani had risked their lives to save him, proving that their promise of a life debt was more than just words. And though she didn't yet know what challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain. She would never forget the bond she had forged with these extraordinary beings. The Vayrani ship lifted off from the mountainside, leaving behind the wreckage of the ancient chamber. Emma sat beside Daniel, her brother's unconscious form resting on a smooth platform that glowed faintly beneath him. The aliens had placed him there moments after boarding, explaining that the surface would help stabilize his condition. Kale and Rin moved about the ship, their movements calm but purposeful, as they monitored instruments and adjusted controls. Emma held Daniel's hand tightly, her eyes fixed on his face. He looked so different, older, thinner, but she could still see traces of the boy she once knew. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and his breathing was shallow but steady. She whispered his name softly, hoping he might hear her. But there was no response. Still, just having him close again filled her with a sense of relief she hadn't felt in years. As the ship soared higher into the atmosphere, Kyle approached her. "He will recover," he said, his deep voice calm and reassuring. The energy fields kept him alive, but they also drained him. "It will take time for his body to heal." Emma nodded, though questions swirled in her mind. "Why was he there?" she asked. "How did he end up in that chamber?" Kale hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "We do not know all the answers," he admitted, "but it seems likely that the technology drew him in. Perhaps it sensed his presence and acted to preserve him." Emma frowned, trying to make sense of this explanation. "Preserve him? Why?" Rin stepped forward, her delicate features softening slightly. "Some machines are designed to protect life," she said. "It is possible the chamber recognized your brother as something valuable, a being worth saving." Emma thought about this for a moment, then shook her head. "I don't understand any of it," she admitted, "but I'm grateful. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have found him." Kale inclined his head slightly, acknowledging her gratitude. "It is our duty," he said simply. "A life debt must be honored." The journey back to Earth was quiet, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines. Emma stayed by Daniel's side, watching over him as the hours passed. Occasionally she glanced at Kale and Rin, who worked together seamlessly, their actions precise and efficient. Though they were alien in appearance, their dedication to helping others reminded her of qualities she admired most in humans: compassion, honor, and selflessness. When they finally landed near Emma's cabin, the sun was rising over the horizon, casting golden light across the forest. Kale carried Daniel gently, placing him on a makeshift bed inside the house. Emma busied herself making tea and gathering blankets, doing everything she could to ensure her brother's comfort. For now, all she could do was wait for him to wake. Up hours later, Daniel stirred. His eyelids fluttered open, revealing dazed but familiar eyes. Emma rushed to his side, tears streaming down her face. "Daniel," she whispered, gripping his hand tightly. "You're safe now." Daniel blinked slowly, confusion etched across his face. "Emma," he murmured, his voice hoarse and weak. Where am I?" "You're home," she told him, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "You've been gone for so long. I thought I'd never see you again." Daniel's brow furrowed as fragments of memory surfaced. "The mountains," he said faintly. "There was light and voices. I couldn't move." Emma nodded, her throat tightening with emotion. "You were trapped in some kind of chamber," she explained. "But you're safe now. That's all that matters." Over the next few days, Daniel grew stronger, though his recovery was slow. He spoke little about his experiences, saying only that he remembered wandering off during his hike and feeling drawn toward the mountains. Beyond that, his memories were hazy and fragmented. Emma didn't press him for details. She was just thankful to have him back. During this time, Kale and Rin visited often, checking on Daniel's progress and ensuring the energy fields hadn't caused lasting harm. Each visit deepened Emma's respect for them. They spoke openly about their culture, sharing stories of their homeworld and the values that guided their people. Through these conversations, Emma learned more about the concept of a life debt. It wasn't merely an obligation, but a profound expression of trust and gratitude. One evening, as they sat around the fire outside the cabin, Kale turned to Emma. "Your actions have changed us," he said. "Loom spoke often of your kindness. Because of you, we see humans differently now, not as strangers, but as allies." Emma felt a lump rise in her throat. "I didn't do anything special," she replied. "I just followed my heart." Kyle smiled faintly, a gesture that seemed almost human despite his alien features. "That is what makes it special," he said. As the weeks passed, Emma began to think about the future. Her encounter with the Vairani had opened her eyes to possibilities she had never considered before. She realized how much she wanted to share their story with others, to bridge the gap between humans and extraterrestrials. With Kyle's encouragement, she started working on plans for a cultural exchange program, aiming to foster understanding and cooperation between their species. Daniel supported her efforts wholeheartedly, though he remained quieter than he had been before his disappearance. Emma suspected that his time in the chamber had left scars beyond the physical ones, but she gave him space to heal at his own pace. One night, as Emma stood on her porch gazing at the stars, Kyle appeared unexpectedly. "It is time for us to leave," he said. "Our mission here is complete." Emma felt a pang of sadness but nodded. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. I'll never forget what you've done for me, and for Daniel." Kale placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch surprisingly warm. "We will not forget you either," he said. "Should humanity ever face great danger, know that the Vairani will stand beside you. Our bond is eternal." With those words, Kale turned and disappeared into the forest. Moments later, the glow of a ship rose into the sky, vanishing among the stars. Emma watched until the light faded completely, her heart full of gratitude and hope. Though the Vairani were gone, their impact lingered. Emma knew that her life, and Daniel's, had been forever changed by their kindness. As she went to bed that night, she smiled, knowing that somewhere out there, allies watched over Earth, allies who had taught her the true meaning of honor, sacrifice, and connection. Years passed, and life in Pine Ridge settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and new. Emma Carter dedicated herself to building bridges between humans and extraterrestrials, inspired by her encounters with the Vairani. Her cultural exchange program grew steadily, attracting interest from scientists, diplomats, and ordinary people eager to learn about life beyond Earth. The small town became a hub of activity, with visitors arriving from all over the world, and eventually, from other worlds as well. Daniel, too, found his place in this new chapter of their lives. Though he remained quieter than before his disappearance, he threw himself into studying the ancient technology that had preserved him. With Emma's encouragement, he collaborated with researchers to understand its origins and purpose. It was slow, painstaking work, but Daniel seemed to find solace in it, a way to make sense of what had happened to him. Loom visited often, accompanied by Rin or another member of the Veyrani delegation. Each visit brought gifts, glowing crystals that pulsed with gentle light, seeds that grew into plants unlike anything on Earth, and stories from the stars. Loom had grown into a graceful, intelligent being, and its bond with Emma remained as strong as ever. They communicated through gestures, expressions, and occasional bursts of broken English. Though they were vastly different species, their connection transcended language. Emma cherished these moments, but she also thought often of Kale. He had returned to his duties among the stars, leaving behind only memories and the promise of eternal friendship. She wondered where he was now, what distant planets he explored, what challenges he faced. Yet she took comfort in knowing that the Veyrani were always watching over humanity, ready to step forward if needed. One evening, as Emma sat on her porch watching the sunset, a soft hum filled the air. She turned to see a familiar figure emerging from the trees. It was Kale, his exoskeleton gleaming faintly in the twilight. For a moment she simply stared, unsure if she was dreaming. Then she rose to her feet, her heart pounding. "Kale," she said, her voice trembling. "You're back." He inclined his head slightly, his expression calm but warm. "I am," he replied. "There is much to discuss." Emma led him inside, offering him tea as they sat by the fire. "What brings you here?" she asked, trying to mask her excitement. Kyle hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Our people have been observing Earth closely," he began. "We are impressed by your progress, the way you have embraced cooperation and understanding. But there are others who do not share our views." Emma frowned, leaning forward. "Others? You mean other aliens?" Kyle nodded. "Not all beings value peace as we do. Some see Earth as a resource to be exploited, a prize to be claimed. They may come seeking power or destruction." A chill ran down Emma's spine. "Are you saying we're in danger?" "It is possible," Kale admitted. "But I am here to ensure that does not happen. The Veyrani will protect Earth just as we promised. However, we cannot do it alone. We need your help." Emma felt a surge of determination. "Tell me what to do," she said firmly. "If there's a way to keep Earth safe, I'll do whatever it takes." Kyle explained that the key lay in unity, not just among humans, but between humans and extraterrestrials. Together, they could create a network of allies, spreading knowledge and fostering trust across the galaxy. Emma realized then that her cultural exchange program was more important than ever. It wasn't just about curiosity or diplomacy. It was about survival. Over the following months, Emma worked tirelessly to expand the program, inviting representatives from various alien species to participate. Many came willingly, drawn by the promise of mutual benefit. Others were hesitant, requiring patience and persuasion. Through it all, Kyle remained by her side, guiding her efforts and offering wisdom when needed. The changes weren't always easy. Some humans resisted the idea of working with extraterrestrials, fearing the unknown. Others questioned whether Earth should rely on outside help at all. But Emma persisted, reminding everyone of the lessons she had learned. That kindness and trust could overcome even the greatest differences. As the years went on, the bonds between humans and extraterrestrials grew stronger. Collaborative projects flourished, from sustainable energy solutions to medical advancements. Stories of shared success spread far and wide, inspiring hope in places where fear had once ruled. Even those who had doubted began to see the value of cooperation. One clear night, as Emma stood on her porch gazing at the stars, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The universe was vast and mysterious, full of wonders and dangers alike. But no matter what challenges lay ahead, she knew that humanity wouldn't face them alone. Allies like the Veyrani stood ready to help, united by a bond forged through acts of kindness and sacrifice. Kale joined her on the porch, his presence comforting and reassuring. "You have done well," he said softly. "Your world has changed because of you." Emma smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "It's not just me," she replied. "It's all of us, humans, Veyrani, and everyone else who believes in a better future." Kale nodded, his glowing eyes reflecting the starlight. "Yes," he agreed, "and together we will face whatever comes next." For a long time they stood in silence, watching the sky. Emma felt a profound sense of peace knowing that she had played a part in shaping a brighter tomorrow. Whatever the future held, she was ready. After all, she had allies among the stars, and friends she would never forget.